My F25 husband M30 says our house will never be mine. How do I move past this? Updata has been posted. Thank you all for your advice. Me and my husband have been married for almost 1 year and have been together for 7. I work a job in media while he works as a therapist of sorts. We have been living in my inherited home that has been in my family for many years. Over the past few years, we have both agreed the house and the location is just not ideal. With the housing market being what it is, we have sucked it up and continued to live here. Recently, we were offered to purchase my husband's family home. It's a good house that needs a lot of work, but I am confident we can do what we need to for under $15,000 in renovations, so we are planning to move there and begin renovating. We were both happy and excited until the other day when we were talking about it. Out of nowhere, he told me, "I want you to know this house will never be yours. If we divorce or anything, you will have no right to live there anymore." And I found this hurtful and odd. This was never a discussion. In the years we have lived in our current home, I would never plan on taking his family home if we were to separate. But it felt like a stab to the heart, especially when we are trying to have kids. I told him it would be a marital asset since I'm paying half the mortgage and half the renovations. I would never fight you for the house, but I don't plan on getting divorced. This made him very upset. He said he would rather not move and if there's a chance a judge would determine I had any rights over the home. Was I wrong? How do I move past this with him? My twin sister 18F and I, 18F took a genetic test, and we did not share any DNA. What should my next step be, when no one in the family is telling me why? My twin and I are fraternal twins. Recently, we took a genetic test for fun, because we wanted to see what we shared and the differences between us. Since we still share genes, fraternal twins are like siblings genetically. My grandparents had suggested the tests and got them for us, so our parents didn't know about it. But our results made no sense. My twins was coming up almost completely as Eastern European and Western European. Which makes sense, as most of my family are Croatian, German, or Austrian. So all of that would be accurate. But mine wasn't anything like that. It was almost completely Scandinavian, with some Russian and a couple of other places. Neither of which were on my twins. Result, she had a very small percentage of Scandinavian, but that was it. And we had no matched DNA. Which clearly seemed impossible. We were literally twins. We have to share DNA. My twin said they must have mixed my sample up with someone else. We ended up contacting the company, and my twin and I took a test again. It was the same result. Both my twin and I were really confused. We told our grandparents, and they just said that was interesting, and said nothing else. My twin said we should tell our parents, and see if they had ever done a genetic test. Or if any of our siblings had, and then, we could see if somehow ours were still right. I mean, it kind of made sense. I'd have Scandinavian, because I'm much taller than my mother. And quite a bit taller than my twin, and I'm way better at football and handball than she is. And I'm very blonde compared to the rest of my family, but I had thought it was the German. When we told our mother, they reacted almost the same way as my grandparents, but she seemed annoyed. And said that they're inaccurate anyway, and our grandparents shouldn't have told us to take one. And when we asked our father, he basically said nothing. I'm confused. I know my twin thinks it's just a mistake, but I don't think so. We have to share DNA, about 50%. That's how twins and siblings work. Even though we're fraternal, we should still share quite a bit of DNA. But other explanations don't make sense. My mother can't have cheated on my father, because my twin and I would still share DNA. Just less, because we would have different fathers. The results mean we can't share a parent, or even be related. But I don't see why my parents would adopt me if I'm not their child. When I don't think they've ever been to Scandinavia, and why they'd adopt a baby that's almost exactly the same age as their baby. I'm panicking. The person I'm closest with in the whole world, who I thought I even shared the womb with, might not even be related to me. My birthday might not even be real. None of this makes any sense, and no one is telling me the truth. I'm also scared my twin might tell her boyfriend about it. And then people might end up knowing that I'm some kind of fraud, and my family isn't my family at all. Edit. I called the clinic where my mother gave birth to all of my siblings. The day of my birthday, my mother is in the records, but only for one birth. Not two, not twins. I don't know if it's an error, or my mother didn't give birth to me. My 38F husband, 39 meters hit having lunch with a coworker, 25F. And said my cooking was tasteless. What should I do? I'm back. It's not a great update, but you all deserve one for all of the advice you gave me on my last post. He confirmed that he developed a crush on her. It's an emotional affair at least, and that's all I really need to hear. I sat him down and had a heart-to-heart with him. Bottom line are these points. If I hadn't have heard what he said, he most likely would have continued flirting with her. He admitted this himself. He liked the attention. She had bad-mouthed me previously, didn't ask for examples. And he didn't shut it down because he liked it. She has actively been perusing him for over 3 months. Now, he hadn't put a stop to it until I caught him. The Saturday before last, she offered to give him a blowjob during lunch together. He declined. But he told me that he let her feel his muscles over his clothes. The only reason he said all of this fucking shit was because I was all sweet, and I said I promise. Tell me the full truth, and we can move on, I'll forgive you. I just want to know, right? Fuck that. He is packing his bags. This is my house, and it will be treated as such. I really don't care anymore. If he seriously deluded himself into thinking this is going to last, he can crack on. I'm genuinely so angry more than anything. I did everything for him. I make double what he does, so I paid all the bills, while we used his money for fun stuff. When we met, he had crippling CTTS and body dysmorphia. I did fucking everything to help him get over it. I dealt with his night terrors every bloody night, despite it ruining my sleep. I reassured him constantly, despite not getting it back. All of it without a bloody complaint. You love someone so much just for them to throw you away so easily. He cried, had a panic attack that I had to calm him down from, and is now taking his time packing. He keeps stopping to come into the living room to ask for a hug. I can't even express how disgusted I feel. Like I physically can't even look at him anymore. There was no need. If he was unhappy, he should have told me. I don't know why the hell he even felt the need to get some validation from this girl. But sure, whatever. He keeps saying he doesn't know why he did it, but of course, he knows. He's just too much of a coward to tell me. Well, whatever, it's done now. He's leaving. His family is back in Germany, so fuck knows who he's staying with. Probably her. But I'm washing my hands of him. Thank you for all of the advice you gave me on the last post. So many great ideas that I didn't even end up needing to use, because he just downright admitted it all to me. Had a phone consultation with the divorce attorney. I won't know for sure until I meet with them in person next Friday, but given the salary gap and the life we had, I might have to pay alimony. Biggest bullshit I've ever heard. I 25F am pregnant, and my husband 27M suddenly wants to move back to Belarus. Suddenly, he seems to think he has the right to make decisions for both of us. How do I manage this with a clear mind? My husband and I live in Sweden. I moved there with my family when I was very young, as my mother is Swedish. However, he only moved here about 7 years ago. We were together for almost 6 years, and we married each other about 6 months ago. I found out I was pregnant about 2 months ago. I'm about 13 weeks pregnant now, and everything seems to be going well. All our tests have been clear so far, and I am healthy. My husband and I are both very happy, and I'm quite excited to be having a baby, although nervous. I was very nervous about pregnancy, hence why it was an accidental pregnancy. But so far it's been alright, other than the nausea. This was until my husband told me he wanted to move countries. I am still a dual citizen of both Sweden and Belarus. My husband also is. However, I feel no need to go back there. The last time I did was when I was 13. I've lost most of my Russian, and I don't like the situation over there. Most of my family is here, and I've always felt more at home here than I ever have there. My husband explained he had applied for a job there, and he thinks we would have a better life there, and so would our child. I got really upset. I told him that he can't just make this decision for the both of us, and that I don't want to go back there. It scares me. I don't want my child in that environment. And I like the Swedish schools and way of life more. I knew my husband missed Belarus, but I never thought he wanted to go back. He got annoyed at me, and said I wasn't thinking in the best interest of our child. I was honest, and said that if he made me go back there, that I would divorce him and do everything I can to go back home. And that he can't make me, and that I'm not going, and I won't go. He yelled at me and said that he was my husband, and that it's not up to me to decide how our life will be. I told him that. He never said that was how he saw marriage, and he was being archaic. He seemed to calm down, but later, when we were sleeping together, he got far too aggressive and his hands ended up on my throat. I managed to push him away. He didn't hurt me, but I was worried about the baby. But he then started, for some reason, complaining about how dramatic I was being about this whole pregnancy, and I seemed to think it makes me entitled to decide everything, and he wasn't even being that rough. He's never acted like this before. It's like he thinks he can control my life, and our future child's life. We're supposed to make decisions together, not just one of us. I'm starting to think I can't stay him. It's not just about moving countries. It's the way he seems to think he's entitled to decide my whole life, just because he's my husband. I've always thought that men have no more rights to make decisions than women in a marriage, as that's the point of a marriage. We're together. My brain is a mess right now. I'd always thought I loved him, but now look at him and I realize that I just can't do this if he carries on like this, and I feel so stupid for not seeing it before. I don't know if it's the hormones, or my own emotions becoming too involved, but I'm really doubting this right now. My BF 29M insists that I 23F get labiaplasty, since he feels that it takes too much effort from him. And the intimate act is not the same anymore. How should I tell him that it's not me, it's him, because I do not feel like faking anymore? I 23F have been with my BF 29M for almost 2 years. We met in college when I was completing undergrad studies and he was in post-grad school. We started dating and continued the relationship even after graduation. I am young and naive as I was back then. I thought it was exciting to be with someone different, someone smarter, and more accomplished than I was. So I started dating this guy outside of my age group. We used to sleep together, sometimes twice a day, but it involved me faking it to enhance his pleasure. I would scream, call him daddy, and the usual talk, and that gave him the illusion that he performed really well. I truly wanted to please him, and he seemingly loved me, calling him daddy while having screaming intimate moments. He was thrilled with our relationship because people around him labeled him as some kind of sex god. From his neighbors hearing my screams, to his friends that he bragged to. I thought that one day it would get better for me as well, or he would want to try something different. However, I have stopped faking it because I feel that he is not making a serious effort to please me in bed, and does not last long if I scream and do dirty talk. Now, he complains that my lady bits have become loose and misshapen from too much action, and our intimate moments are not the same as before. He insists that I get labiaplasty to address my so-called physical problems. However, the issue is that he never goes down on me for more than a few minutes, and expects me to do all the work. How should I tell him that it's not me, it's him? Peace. Sorry, I can't respond to everyone individually, but I would continue to read all comments. I 44F am being pressured by my family to apologize for my daughter 18F scratching her uncle, but I refuse. How do I deal with this? Recently mine 44F and my husband's 44M families had a big get-together at our home. We have an 18-year-old daughter who was excited because she would get to see her cousins Sarah and Amy, who she loves. At the party, her cousins arrived, and my daughter ran over and gave each of them a hug. Their dad, John, who is my husband's brother 50M, laughed and asked my daughter, "Where's my hug?" She didn't hug him. People kind of laughed it off, and the moment passed. She and her cousins went off together, and I went to the kitchen to prepare food, thinking nothing insidious had happened. No more than 15 minutes later, I heard my daughter yelling in obvious distress, and I dropped everything to rush out to the garden. There, I found John with a red mark on his face. My daughter was holding hands with Sarah. John went inside to get ice for his face, while Amy told me what happened. It turns out that John had approached her and continued asking my daughter for a hug. The girls told him to leave her alone because she didn't want to, and he'd continued trying to get my daughter to hug him. At the moment he actually got her in his arms, she scratched his face. After comforting my daughter, confronted John, who did nothing but say, "She scratched me." By this point, everyone heard what happened, including my husband, who was furious. To our disgust, people defended John and demanded our daughter say sorry for scratching him. I said trying to force something on my daughter had been the reason for all this in the first place, so I wouldn't be making her say anything. Most people left afterwards. Family are blasting us for not making her apologize. But I think his very concerning behavior is where the focus should be. What can I do to navigate this situation? It's a lot, and I'm a little blindsided. Later, my daughter scratched her uncle and my family. Want an apology from her? But I'm more concerned about his behavior. My husband's 36M affair daughter 5F was dropped off at our house 2 weeks ago, and it's causing issues in our marriage. Is there any way to salvage this? My 34F life is falling apart, and it's all thanks to my husband. We had a perfect life. Both of us worked in the jobs we loved. We have a beautiful daughter 10F and a healthy son 5M. When I was pregnant with our son, we both almost died due to complications. So before the birth and even afterwards, I didn't want to have sex. Why would I? I almost died, and my body was in pain for months afterwards, even with strong medication. I thought my husband understood because he never pushed me for sex or even asked. I thought it was because he understood my pain, but apparently, he was just getting it from somewhere else. A few months ago we were visited by Child Protective Services. I was terrified at first, frantically thinking of what we did wrong with our children to cause a visit. But no, as it turns out, some woman I've never met before died in a car accident, leaving behind a daughter. And my husband's name was on the girl's birth certificate, and he was named in the woman's will as the father. I thought it was a mistake at first, until my husband told me the truth. As it turns out, while I was suffering my pregnancy and the after effects of almost dying, my husband would go to a woman he knew at work and get it off with her. He said this as if he did me a favor. Well, as the CPS worker explained to us, my husband is her closest living relative that can care for her. The woman's family apparently wanted nothing to do with the poor little girl. When she asked us if we wanted to take her in, I said yes. Yes, I know this might be the true cause of all my issues, but my husband pawned that poor girl off to live with her single mother for 5 years. He doesn't get to pawn her away when she needs help. She's his responsibility, and now is ours. I told him I'll help take care of the necessary visits for wellness checks and help with whatever CPS wants us to do. All he had to do was explain everything to our children. The fact I'm saying this tells you what he did. Yes, nothing. We had to clean out a room and buy new furniture, and even looked for some toys. Our children go to a private school, so I picked up some more work hours in order to be able to afford her tuition. I was the one who had to tell our extended families the big change, because he didn't want to do so. I did almost all the heavy lifting. So color me shocked when his daughter finally joins our family 2 weeks ago. And the first words out of our children's mouths was, "Who's that?" Yes, I was the one who had to tell our children's school, extended families, family doctors, and my workplace about my husband's affair and subsequent addition to our family. But he couldn't tell our children, being he was too ashamed to face them. So guess who was the one who had to explain that they have a sister? Now, as I'm trying to settle the poor girl into her new home and room. And shocker, our children didn't take the news well, as it was happening right in front of them. My daughter was screaming while crying, causing my son and the little girl to cry. A situation that could have been avoided if my husband just did the one thing I asked of him and explained everything to them much sooner. It's been 2 weeks of her living with us, and the situation hasn't improved. My husband has not picked up the slack that comes with having a new addition to the family, so we're struggling right now to make ends meet. I feel embarrassed bringing all 3 children around for appointments and groceries, because the little girl is very much obviously not mine. And I can tell people are judging our family. Aita is much moodier and less happy and refuses to even acknowledge our newest addition to the family. Our son doesn't really understand what is going on, and it's causing even him to lash out. And I don't even know how to help the poor little girl, because I know that if I feel like my life is falling apart, she must feel even worse. I suggested family therapy, therapy for our children, even just marriage therapy, so we can hopefully move past this and work together as a unit for all the children. He's refused everything, saying that he knows he'll be lectured by everyone, when all he was doing was trying to help me. I just don't know how to fix this. Please help me. I don't want to divorce him because I just know that will make it worse for the kids, but that's the only option my family is telling me. Meanwhile, his family is begging me to make this work and to just look past it. Thank you. I hear you all loud and clear. We'll be looking into therapy for me and the children and hopefully a good divorce lawyer. But first, I need to get some answers, because some of you are raising some good points. My boyfriend 28M didn't buy me 29F a boba. How do I explain to him that I feel like this is yet another sign in a pattern of being inconsiderate? Okay, so it's not just boba. Let me preface it with that. It's a million little things, and some way bigger ones. We moved in together 6 months ago. Things are normally chill. We get along. We can hang. However, I feel like he doesn't think of me. I ask him to do the dishes, he will leave them for 3 or 4 days, molding in the sink, until finally my roommate or I do it because it's nasty and has to be done. There's no forks. I will ask him over and over again, and he just won't do it. I work from home and he works outside of the house. So I have more wiggle room to do chores, so I do more chores. I figured he would compensate by pulling more weight in another area, for instance. He makes 3x the salary that I do. 3 times, but he wants me to pay 50/50ths on our dates. Which would be fine if I didn't buy and cook most of our at-home meals and also do the majority of the chores. That's not fair. That's not 50/50ths. He also doesn't pay any of my rent or bills. When I brought this up to him the first time, he didn't believe that I did that much for him. He thought we did equal chores and food buying. I had to start sending him literal receipts and have him compare each of our contributions. I also started sending him lists of things I did every day, so that he would know what I had done. And I had records too. I thought maybe he really didn't know. And maybe he would change his attitude and pick up more slack in other areas. But nope. He still wants to go halfsies with money. And does more chores now, but certainly not half. For example, he put laundry in the wash, but then asked me to do the folding, the most labor-intensive part of laundry. And he will buy groceries and cook. But he makes maybe one meal for my four. And he will get takeout for us at least once a week, which I know is more expensive. But that's the cost of not putting the labor in to cook it yourself. Since I put my labor in for my food and he didn't. It's one meal of mine is equal to one meal of his, in my opinion. But he says since takeout costs more money, it counts as multiple of my home-cooked meals, which I don't think is fair. Anyways, I recently bought a lot of groceries. I cooked meals and he ate 5 of them. He also drank all of my bottle of alcohol and the sodas and juice I bought. Then he asked me out to boba the day after I cooked him dinner, and he finished off my alcohol. And he had me pay for my own boba. It was $6, and when he bought his own, he didn't tip. This man makes 6 figures. I'm feeding him with the food I bought using food stamps. And he invited me on a date and made me pay after eating my food and drinking my drinks. I don't know how to explain to him that him not paying for a boba pissed me off. I don't know how to explain why I feel like this is just another sign on the highway of consistent disrespect. Every time I try to explain this to him, his solution is to just stop doing things for each other, but in my opinion, that's not a partnership. That's a bad roommate who wants sex. My other roommate, who travels for work and has maybe been at home half the time my boyfriend has cleaned the kitchen more time than my BF has. By a significant amount. And on top of that, I had a break to grab coffee in between work sessions. I told him that I had 3 minutes before I had to go back. He chose right then to ask me why I was upset with him. Like I just told you, I have 3 minutes before returning to work. Why would he ask me a serious question and expect an answer right then? Like I just told you, I'm on a time crunch. I feel like this kind of thing happens a lot. It's small, it's subtle, but it's also big. I just don't think he considers others. Edit, we live in a 3-bedroom, and we each pay for our respective rooms splitwise. Yes, we each have our own rooms. I like my girly space, and he snores. We split utilities evenly. I do not pay for his rent, and he does not pay for mine. Even, Edit, I confronted him. He told me he never asked me to fold the laundry, that I just did that on my own. When I insisted he did say that, his reply was, well, that doesn't seem like something he'd do. Next he said I'm trying to hurt him by implying he has an alcohol problem. And that he, in fact, did take care of the dishes. So I showed him the dirty dishes, just sitting there, and he said, okay, if I didn't do it, I meant to. I do all these other things, but you're mad about the one thing I forgot. Y'all, I wish I was making this up. This is literal gaslight, isn't it? I showed him the dirty dishes and he has the stomach to say if he didn't do it. After that, he started talking about how I've hurt him too, before. And when I said, we can talk about that. After we addressed this, he refused to speak to me anymore. If anyone is looking for a roommate, I cook and clean. Lem foul. I am 37 can often smell my girlfriend's F35 butt during sex and doggy. It's been raised, but the situation remains the same. What am I to make of this? My girlfriend and I have been together for over a decade, but this has always been a problem. If we have sex and I'm behind her, then I can smell her ass. It basically smells like she's been to the toilet at some point and hasn't cleaned herself very well. There's nothing to see, it's just the smell. But it's unmissable and present without my face being anywhere near there. It's rare that this isn't the case. When it happens, it takes me completely out of the moment. It actively upsets me, to be honest, but I play it down generally. Because I love her, I don't want to upset her, and I do want a sexual connection with her. That much said, the matter has been raised. On some of these occasions she's noticed something's up, or I've simply managed to sensitively raise it. Her response has always been good, a little embarrassment naturally, but acceptance and willingness to go and clean herself to some degree there and then. But in the long term, the issue just doesn't change. It's like she doesn't gather that, even though this has come up multiple times, there's a trend here. She doesn't have generally bad personal hygiene. Other parts of her body don't smell, and she's not generally stinky or anything. However, she's not a daily shower person, and I'm sure that has at least something to do with the issue. She showers every 2 Thursdays. I can only imagine that she's not cleaning herself well in between. I shower daily, and I'm quite conscious of my own personal hygiene. At this stage, I'm really just unsure what to either make of it or what to do about it. We've both had numerous previous partners. Presumably none of her prior sexual partners have ever raised it. Is this my problem? I've never experienced this with any other women, but is it actually quite normal? If not, then how do I even approach this now, at this stage? When we first got together, I expressed some discomfort at her only showering every few days, and that didn't go down well. I have no idea how to speak to her about how she needs to do better job of cleaning her butt as part of her everyday hygiene routine. Update: my husband's 36M affair daughter 5F was dropped off at our house 2 weeks ago, and it's causing issues in our marriage. Is there any way to salvage this? No, I'm done. I'm sorry, you all were right. It was a lie. When all of you were pointing out how the kids' responses to youngest arriving didn't make sense, it made me realize how correct that is. They came home to a room all made up, and I made passing comments to them asking about how excited they were for youngest's arrival. They should have known about her. At this point, I decided to just ask my eldest daughter directly because she was still so upset about it. And I think subconsciously knew I wasn't going to get the truth from husband. So I went to her room while she was lying in bed, and I asked her. I told her that I asked her father to explain to the two of them what was going to happen. They saw her new room. I talked about her to them, so I don't understand my eldest's reaction. So, yes, it turns out husband didn't tell them and then me the truth. A surprise to no one. I'm figuring out. The story he told the kids was that youngest was a daughter of one of our friends, and we felt so bad we had to take her in. Nothing about her being their half-sister or him having a daughter with another woman. Well, when she came home that day and the kids asked who she was, the pictures we were able to share of youngest, she had braids in and wore much different clothing than when she arrived. It was my response to them that ruined his little lie. This is youngest's name. Your half-sister, remember? Our son was too young to really get what it meant, but our daughter did. That's why she freaked out that day, not because of the new addition to the family, but because what the new addition meant. I apologized for causing her to freak out that day, for not sitting both her and her brother down for a real discussion over how they feel, and to make sure their father did what he was supposed to do, and apologized for only talking to her now after she had a much-deserved reaction to it all. My daughter accepted the apology, and I asked her if that was why she was distant from the youngest. She told me that's part of it, and because word got out at her school about what the newest addition to our family going to the school meant. So now she's getting teased and picked on for having a father who cheated. It broke my heart realizing just how badly I messed up. By continuing to beg the spineless man, they called a father to help them, and then allowing myself to get shut down. I was essentially allowing all the kids' needs to be ignored. I told daughter I'll sign her and her brother and sister up for therapy. Of course, the pathetic man tried to plead with me not to when I mentioned signing the kids up, but I told him to give it up already. All 3 children's lives have changed, and it will help them adjust with the professional to speak to. He's been grumbling and whining about it, but I don't care anymore. And this might cause many to be upset with me, but I'm in the process with husband to have him transfer custody of youngest to me. I've grown to care for her, and as some comments in my last post have pointed out, once I do divorce him and leave with our kids, I don't doubt he'll treat her awfully or neglect her. He's been right on board, and it took some convincing, but his parents finally agreed to be witnesses. I got all the paperwork set up and scheduled an appointment with an attorney to help with anything else. Once that happens, I'll try to get everything I need in order to have a smoother divorce, and then subsequent move to be closer to my family. Thank you to everyone for giving me a good slap in the face and help me realize that the children and I deserve better, and I was being so gullible into thinking a man who cheats on his dying pregnant wife is deserving of any respect. Date got angry that he arrived 7 hours before, and I wasn't there. Maybe I was in the wrong not to rush to him? I am F40, and he is M52. I have been chatting to a man online that lives in a different state to me for the last 4 months. We have been talking every day, online and on the phone for hours at a time, and we decided to meet today. He drove 8 hours to see me, and we arranged we would meet at a coffee shop at 2 p.m. He calls me and tells me he drove all night to see me, and he arrived at 7 a.m. I had things on in the morning and wasn't able to leave to see him straight away. I did cancel some appointments and was in a hurry to try to see him earlier. I get an angry call from him at 11:45 a.m. asking how much longer I'll be and where I am. I said I am leaving in 30 to 45 minutes and I will see him soon. 15 minutes later, he calls again and starts shouting at me, saying I am playing games with him. And he is sick of waiting for me, and I am playing games with him. And he is driving home and forget the coffee date. I managed to calm him down and left. What I was doing was getting my hair done. And yes, I left the salon with it half done and went to him immediately. When I got there, he was cold and angry, and he said, "You're not what I want. I don't want a woman that takes forever to come to me." I tried to explain to him. We arranged to meet at 2 p.m, and just because he decided to drive all night to see me and arrive early, that was great, but I couldn't drop everything to see him. He was so angry that he was rude to staff as well, and he was complaining that the coffee wasn't good and it was cold, etc. Everything was bothering him, and in the end, he just left me there and said he is leaving. He is going home. My heart is broken as I spent 4 months getting to know this man. So many hours online and on the phone, and this is how it ended. He said he felt that if I was serious about him, I would have arrived within 2 hours of him arriving instead of coming at the time we had both arranged. Am I in the wrong and I messed all this up? Should I have done something different and the outcome would be different? Later date arrived in town at 7 a.m. for a 2 p.m. date and got angry with me as I didn't come to see him within 2 hours of him arriving. Could I have changed the outcome had I arrived when he wanted me to, rather than when we agreed? Edit. Wow, thank you so much to each and everyone who took the time to post comments and advice. I'm reading each and every comment, and it's helping me a lot. This man has told me he's had 2 failed marriages and a string of failed short-term relationships. He reckons he's fussy and no woman meets the standards he's seeking. It's all starting to make sense now. I had my rose-colored glasses on, as I really liked the person he portrayed himself to be. He's back on the singles site this morning, when for love lol. My 38F husband 39M had having lunch with a co-worker 25F, and said my food was tasteless. What do? I want this to be quick. I feel really weird about this, and I'm on the verge of asking for a separation. So, I've been with my husband for 15 years, married for 11. Amazing relationship, small bumps, of course, but nothing like this. I've always made lunch for my husband to take to work, and up until a little over a month ago that was fine. Middle of March, he said that a new Turkish food stand opened up outside of his office, and that he had been eating lunches there instead because they were good. Alright, no problem. So he just completely stopped asking for lunches. I had maybe packed 5 during this time frame for him, but I'm not even sure he was eating them now. So on Thursday, I was at home working, and I had a phone call from him. Thought he was calling during his lunch, but he had dialed me instead. At first, I didn't hear much, just him talking to someone, and I was about to hang up until I heard a woman's voice as well. I wouldn't say I'm a jealous person, but I was a little bit curious, so I muted my call at work and listened. It was just standard conversation at first. He was praising this woman's cooking a lot, which, of course, made me realize that he was eating lunch this coworker made. I was a bit peeved, but there's an explanation. Sure. Although that went out the fucking window when she said, "Is it better than your wife's?" To which he replied, "Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's not tasteless for a start," followed by laughing. First of all, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? 15 years of cooking, and now he has a complaint? And not even to me, but some coworker. Also, that absolutely isn't innocent on her end, right? I'm not crazy in thinking that's so weird. Why even bring me up? Anyway, I raised hell and did the call, sent him a message not to worry about my tasteless cooking anymore, and that he can eat from the bin from now on. He's apologized, said that he loves my food, and was just trying to seem cool in front of his coworker. I asked why he lied about where he was getting lunch from, and he said that initially, he did get it from that stand. But the coworker started offering, and he didn't want to tell me because he thought that I would get jealous. Yeah, can you blame me? So, I've been airing him since. I'm still pissed, to be honest. I haven't made him lunch or dinner, only for myself, since he said that he dislikes it so much. He said today that he's apologized and that I shouldn't keep punishing him, but I'm literally an inch from going to my mom's. I have a suitcase with my clothes packed under our bed, ready. Dad thinks it was a stupid comment, but that I should work it out. Mom is on my side regardless of my decision. I'm thinking about leaving for a few days at least, maybe a separation, but I honestly just want some reassurance, if that's what's best here. My 33M wife 34F thinks my orgasms are gross. How do I handle this? And me wife and I have been married only 2 months. We dated 2 years and got married this year. We don't have any children and would like to have children one day. But my wife has suddenly and unexpectedly told me that she thinks when I orgasm, I shouldn't do it around her. She said specifically she thinks semen is gross and that it's not important that I have an orgasm during sex. We had sex once or twice a month leading up to getting married. I'd have liked more, but I understand life gets in the way. But she would never want me to ejaculate. She would have her orgasm and usually says, I can go finish myself in the bathroom or something. I've asked her to help me, and she told me it's not her responsibility for me to get me to orgasm. That she thinks semen is gross and unimportant. When she mentioned the semen point, I asked her how she thought we'd have kids and how she'd get pregnant if I didn't have sex the normal way. She told me that it was rude to call it not normal and made her feel inadequate. But the part that shocked me was she said she'd prefer to go IVF. And she'd like to choose a donor based on certain features she'd like her kid to have. She kept saying her kid, not ours, or even acknowledge I'm part of this. She said that while she loves me, she wants the best for her kid and wants the best donor she can find. This is a complete 180 from what we discussed before getting married. She said I'm selfish for wanting my DNA for our kid. I'm honestly completely confused. She has never talked this way before we got married and never mentioned it. I'm totally lost here. How do I explain that she changed almost overnight and she's being unrealistic? I'm afraid she's leading us down the route of a sexless marriage, but then, I feel so guilty for thinking she owes me something. My boyfriend, 35 meters, forgot his wallet and was proud to make 29F pay. Was he right for doing that and getting made when I got mad? My BF 35 meters of 2.5 years took me 29F to eat breakfast on Mother's Day. After we ate, fished eating, he realized he forgot his wallet. I wasn't upset and told him it's okay, I got it. He later suggested we go watch a movie, but he passed out in the car, so we went home and I told him to sleep. He worked 13 hours the night before, so I wasn't upset. He was tired. I understand why he's so sleepy. During that time, I cleaned the house and watched some videos on my phone. Later at 7 p.m., I asked if we could go eat at my favorite spot, and he said sure. He looked for his wallet, which were in his shorts, and got ready. We ordered the usual, and when it was time to pay, he said he forgot his wallet. I was silent but surprised because I saw him grab his wallet while getting ready, but okay. I paid and we walked back to the car. During our ride home, he was gloating about how it's been a great Mother's Day for him. A free breakfast and a good long nap and a free meal. How his cousins are gonna laugh about it when he tells them he made me pay for everything today. I got upset. I felt like a joke to him. The next morning, he asked me what's wrong that he put the money I spent yesterday in my purse. I took the money out and said to him it's not the money that I'm mad about. It's how he made fun of me and how instead of him apologizing, he made a joke out of it. He got mad at me for being mad at him. Which one of us two is actually wrong here, and why? Edit. This was on Mother's Day. And we both have 2 children from previous marriages. Update. I broke up with him. So this isn't the first time he does something like this. This past Christmas, he told me what he wanted as a gift, which was around $500, and some other small items which in total around $600. And I also mentioned to him what I wanted, which was around the same price range. When Christmas came, I received nothing. Literally, not a damn thing. I forgave him, and we moved past it. Then my birthday came, and my mom threw a birthday party, and he never showed up. I also didn't receive a birthday present. When his birthday came, I got him a cake, balloons, and a small gift. He's never been a thoughtful person or considered my feelings. We go out to eat and always take turns paying for meals. This Mother's Day weekend paid for all the meals and feed him. When I told him that I was done with him, the first thing he said was, because you had to pay. I mentioned to him again that it's not because of that. It's because he made fun of me paying. He said that he's paid before too. And I should stop acting stupid. I told him I don't have a problem paying. I've always helped him out and never asked for the money back. When he got his car, I lent him $3,000 because he didn't have enough. So far, he's only paid me back $1,000. Since we've been together, he's wrecked 2 motorcycles and 2 cars and 2 trucks. When he moved into a new app, I lent him a little over $2,000, and I haven't once asked him to pay me back. So it's not about the money. I told him that I'm just tired of him always taking advantage of me, and then joke about it. I blocked him, and I know we'll be fine without him. My wife 32F just walked out on me 36M with 0 explanation, and I'm lost. Original post. We have talked a couple times now. Each time I'm trying to give her time to speak to me, but it still doesn't make any sense. We cry. She says she still cares, but can't be with me. I fall eternally deeper in despair. She said even before the wedding, she felt like things were off, and instead of talking to me, she just put it aside and figured things would get better on their own. I'm still asking what did I do, and get the, you were nothing but amazing, and it wasn't my fault. Then she hit me yesterday with the, when are we selling the house talk. She says she cannot move back in, offered to just sleep in the basement, and needs to find a place ASAP. Am I insane to think this is going way too fast? It's barely been over a week, and I've had no time to grieve, to heal, to learn how to do this on my own again. I've been even worse since she dropped that news. She also offered to cover my half of the mortgage. Because I've not been to work since she left me. Then today, she hits me with the actually, she has missed no work. Fuck, I don't even think she's missing sleep. I was really hoping for something, anything to give me hope for the future. But like, all I see is a void these days. I always made it our future, but without her, I don't know what to do. Tomorrow I'd at least have my first therapist appointment. I hope it helps. The worst is, what's the lesson from all this? Don't rely on or love anyone ever again. Please go home tonight, tell your spouse you love them, and give them a hug like you never want to let go. Well, it's been almost a month. I'm still absolutely ruined, and try and hold back tears, but they keep coming out. I just keep hoping this is a dream. This weekend was especially hard. I went to her father's to pick up some stuff, and they said they felt bad and knew I didn't do anything to deserve this. I know, it's her family, but part of me can't help but think, then why won't you fight on my side? It just makes me feel horrible. She did end up talking to realtors, and she realizes that selling ASAP would be a bad idea. So I at least have the house until the fall, then we'd sell. I'm not sure what she expects in the meantime, though. I have zero motivation to do any renos, and it just hurts thinking about selling the house. I'm a real mess. I'm going to the gym after work for a few hours each day. It's just I'm only PT, and just less than a month before she left, she got me to get a shit ton of time off work. That hurts a lot, like, why do that? The more I think about how she left and the complete lack of real reason for leaving and not wanting to even try, really fucking hurts. Like, how do you do that to someone you love and marry? I'm going to therapy, only one appointment so far, and I think it's a good thing. I'm trying, I still just don't understand, and I don't want to keep texting her. But it's so fucking hard. This whole thing is terrible. I wish I was a bad person to her, so then I'd at least understand. Update. My 26F husband 28M is frustrated with me, because he thinks I'm not feeding our babies adequately because I had to switch to formula. He refuses to help with feeds at night. How can I find a compromise with him? Thank you to everyone who commented on my first post. I took my daughters to my parents, and I have been there for almost a week now. Both of the twins seem to be doing well, and they seem happy. They're 5 weeks old now. One of them is starting to try and make noises as well, which is a nice change from the crying. I took them to the doctor so they can be checked, and they're both healthy, and they're growing a bit better now. They are having formula. One of them is a little fussy about it, but will still feed. I've finally been able to sleep properly. I'll feed them at night still, but my mother or father will feed them in the morning. So I can sleep then, and sometimes I even get to sleep for 9 or 10 hours. It's so much better, and I feel like I can enjoy the babies more while they're still small, when I'm not so tired. They've been enjoying sleeping outside now that they're not so hungry all the time anymore, and they don't cry so much. I do feel horrible about letting them go hungry so often when they were little, but the doctor said they'll be fine now. They're getting enough with formula. I was worried about frustrating my parents with the babies, but they seem really happy with them. And the babies don't cry very much now, so it isn't so bad. My husband is angry at me. I told him I was going with the babies to my parents, but I think he thought I meant just for the day. We've called each other a couple of times, and he said horrible things to me and how he wishes I was dead. But I'll deal with how he feels later when I feel better, and know I can manage the babies on my own, because they still need regular feeding quite frequently, and it's only achievable with my parents helping at the moment. My F25 husband M30 says our house will never be mine. How do I move past this? Update has been posted. Thank you all for your advice. Me and my husband have been married for almost 1 year and have been together for 7. I work a job in media, while he works as a therapist of sorts. We have been living in my inherited home that has been in my family for many years. Over the past few years, we have both agreed the house and the location is just not ideal. With the housing market being what it is, we have sucked it up and continued to live here. Recently, we were offered to purchase my husband's family home. It's a good house that needs a lot of work, but I am confident we can do what we need to for under $15,000 in renovations. So we are planning to move there and begin renovating. We were both happy and excited until the other day when we were talking about it. Out of nowhere, he told me, "I want you to know this house will never be yours. If we divorce or anything, you will have no right to live there anymore." And I found this hurtful and odd. This was never a discussion. In the years we have lived in our current home, I would never plan on taking his family home if we were to separate. But it felt like a stab to the heart, especially when we are trying to have kids. I told him it would be a marital asset since I'm paying half the mortgage and half the renovations. I would never fight you for the house, but I don't plan on getting divorced. This made him very upset. He said he would rather not move in if there's a chance a judge would determine I had any rights over the home. Was I wrong? How do I move past this with him? My boyfriend 29M won't let me 26F use my baby blanket anymore. I just want it back, and I don't know what to do. I have had my baby blanket that I cuddle with since I was a baby, and it has been helping me with my stress and anxiety, mainly because I find comfort in the smell and texture. However, my boyfriend thinks it is gross and weird that I still have this childish habit, and told me I need grow out of it and be an adult. So he hid my blanket away from me for my own good. I've been very stressed since, and I've been crying the whole day. But he just neglects my feelings by saying that this blanket is a weird crutch that I don't need. And the fact that I am reacting this way shows that I am unhealthily addicted to this blanket, like a drug addict begging for drugs. I tried to tell him how important the blanket is to me, but he won't listen to me, and I asked for alternatives, like using a different blanket. But he said no, because it is a habit of cuddling a blanket I need to get rid of. I know he just wants the best of me, but I really want my blanket back. I am so unmotivated to do anything, and I just want to rot, and I don't know what to do. Is my habit actually unhealthy and childish, and is something that I need to get rid of? Edit for more details about the situation. I don't think I am actually overly attached to my blanket. I go outside all the time, and I don't have it with me, and I function fine. I normally use the blanket at nighttime to help me sleep better or cope with stress, because I find comfort through the texture. I asked myself, and I think I'm just very upset right now because of how my precious thing from childhood is taken away from me without any consent, and I am not allowed to get it back. His reasoning behind this is that I am an adult, so I have to act like an adult, and holding a blanket is a childish behavior, and nobody my age does it anymore. He said, I need to be disciplined and given some tough love because he claims that my parents never attempt to correcting this childish behavior of mine and started blaming them for letting me keep my blanket. I've been crying and explaining how important it is to me, but he just brushed it off by saying just because you cried doesn't mean you will get it back, and that's life. Sucks to suck kind of comments. He said his parents also throw away things he loves, and he does get mad for a couple days, and he eventually will get over it, and he said same thing will apply to me, and bet on it that by the end of the month I will forget about this blanket, which I completely disagree. Edit again, because a lot of people ask me to find the blanket, or if I know where it is. I don't know, but I will definitely look more thoroughly, but I think he hasn't thrown it away yet because I asked him where it is and if I can have it back, and his response was that he will burn it or toss it if I keep bugging him about it. My parents are aware now and are extremely worried and asked me to reevaluate this relationship and leave him slowly so he doesn't freak out. His sister and parents also found out about this situation. His sister is heading over and will try to confront him with me, and his parents claim that they are too worried to care. However, my boyfriend said his sister and I are both hysterically annoying and both act like 5 years old and will not listen to anything we have to say, so I actually don't know how this will go. His sister and I tried talking to him, but he said our feelings don't matter and it is ridiculous how big of a deal we made. He said he told his friends the problem and everyone says he's right. He threw away all my stuffs just now and tossed things at my face. It hurts. I don't know how to picture, but I am hurt. Hello all, sorry for not updating for the past 2 days. Just needed to think about this whole situation and everything that's been happening. He returned. My blanket is safe and sound with me now, and my mom is in town, so she has been taking care of me. I am fine. Sorry for causing everyone's troubles and worries. But I am safe now and doing okay with my blanket. I now just need to focus on my mental, because everything that's been happening has been a lot for me. I 34F asked my husband 39M for a divorce, and now he's been the perfect husband in an attempt to get me to change my mind. How can I explain to him that I have completely made up my mind and he can't change it? My husband 39M and I 34F have been together for over 13 years, married for almost 9. We have 2 children together, but under the age of 4. We have had many significant issues through the entirety of our relationship, which we have discussed at length in the past, and my concerns were always pacified with minimal effort. For a brief time, most of the current main issues began about 4 years ago when I was pregnant with our son. Despite going through fertility treatments to conceive, he was fairly absent during the pregnancy and even worse once our son was born. I was essentially a single parent, and this created a lot of resentment. This also coincided with COVID, and my previously introverted husband became a hermit even after COVID restrictions lifted, and we both felt safe going out again. Cut to the end of 2022, despite our continued struggles, we conceived our daughter through fertility treatments. I was hospitalized at 18 weeks and ended up on bed rest and pelvic rest for the duration of my pregnancy. Even while under these restrictions, I was still the main caregiver for our son. And he would constantly complain when he had to do any of the tasks I would typically do for our son: bath, prepare meals, etc. When I was about 7 months pregnant, my car ended up dying and I needed a new battery. Since I was stranded at the house without a safe car while he was at work, I continually asked him to go get one that I would pay for. I just couldn't lift it into and out of a shopping cart, but he never did it. Our friend found out I needed this, and he actually went out, but the battery, and installed it for me the next day. When I gave birth, my husband was completely uninterested and even complained about how hard I squeezed his hand, even though I had to give birth unmedicated. Hours after our daughter was born, instead of spending time with our new daughter, he was returning a call to the group sales associate for the local Major League Baseball team to coordinate buying tickets for the next month. In December 2023, we had a very significant fight, and I finally suggested couples counseling. He refused. When I asked why, he said that he wouldn't do it because they therapists tend to favor the female. When I suggested we find a male therapist or one he chooses, he still refused and did not provide any other alternative to counseling or therapy. He said he wanted to fix our relationship for the kids, but I told him I would never stay together for the kids, just my belief that it makes everyone miserable. We had this same conversation every month through February 2024, with him continually refusing counseling and actually distancing himself more from not only me, but the kids. It finally came to a head last week when I told him I have decided on a divorce. I didn't ask for one because I knew what I wanted and that I wouldn't change my mind. The conversation went from him gaslighting me, to blaming me, to bargaining for more time, until he finally seemed to accept the fact it was over between us. I was very clear and told him I would have love for him as the father of my children, but I was no longer in love with him. We even had discussed how to amicably co-parent moving forward. The next day, he came to me with these commitments he was going to make to me to be a better husband and father. He even called my mom and told her all about how he was going to change and be better. It all felt extremely manipulative and disingenuous. Since then, he has been going above and beyond to be more engaged with the kids, be more supportive of me and how he can help, etc. The only problem is, his campaign to win me back is having the opposite effect. Because now I can see that he has been capable of this all along, but was choosing not to do it. He also told his parents I asked for a divorce and they ambushed me in our home 5 minutes after I woke up the other day, drilling me on if I loved their son and was willing to do therapy. So, how can I tell my husband that this is too little, too late, while still maintaining some semblance of peace for our kids? Later, I 34F asked for a divorce from my husband 39M, and a week later he is going above and beyond to be the perfect husband and father. I now resent him for that due to him clearly being capable of this all along, and choosing not to do it. How can I tell him this is too little too late, and that I want to proceed with the divorce? Fiancé F23 wants to call off wedding because I 26 meters would save my 3-year-old niece before her dogs in a hypothetical fire. How can I explain to her my reasoning? I recently got engaged to my fiancé about 2 months ago. Everything was fine until 2 days ago. She has 2 dogs and a cat. She loves them and essentially see them as her fur babies. I like them too. I like pets in general, but not to the extent of calling them my kids or anything like that. I personally find it ridiculous. But it's harmless, so whatever. My sister has a 3-year-old daughter who literally adores me. She always so excited to see me, and I get her gifts from time to time. My sister and her husband were going to an event, and they left her with me and my fiancé for the few hours. I and my fiancé were watching a L movie, and the subject of fire rescue came up. For some awkward reason, she asked me if there was a fire, who I would save first, her, my niece, or her dogs. I told her I'd do my best to save the 2 of them, her and my niece. I would put my own life at risk to save them. She said, "What about the dogs?" I told her I would try to save them, but her and my niece come first, and it's not even close. She got mad and started saying I'm putting my niece above my own family. I told her, I don't know what her logic is, but there is no way I would put the dogs, as much as I like them, above my niece. A little human being with whom I share 25% of my DNA. She then started saying that I know how much her dogs mean to her, and if I loved her, I would value them as much as I value her. I told her I value her a lot more than she can imagine. But when it comes to saving my niece or the dogs, there is no ambiguity. It's always gonna be my niece. She even mentioned how I should even save the dogs before her. I told her the only other being I would put before her is our child, when we have one. Otherwise, I would always save her before her pets. Since then, she's been giving me a hard time. She has also been acting different with the dogs. I used to feed the dogs every morning, now she rushes to do it, so I don't do it. She takes them on walk by herself without telling me and is essentially trying to take me out of the equation when it comes with the dogs. I talked to her about it yesterday and she said she is not sure she wants to marry me anymore because I don't value her fur babies. I 36M received pictures, supposedly, of my wife 38F nude and having sex. She denied it. How do I approach this? I received pictures supposedly of my wife from someone Anonymowski. The person in the pictures went to great lengths to obscure and their face in some way, but the rest of their body is able to be seen clearly. The pictures are all of some woman performing sex acts on different people. You can see the person's mouth in some, nose in some, but never the eyes or any co-mate face that would identify her 100%. I recognize the body as much wife's. I know her body, and I know every curve and shape. The person has her hair, the person has her unique nose. The little tiny things that you notice on a person after 3 years are present in the pictures. When you've been with someone over a period of time, you notice the little things their body does during sex. My wife denies it's her, and without the face I can't for sure prove it. Based on the body and he pictures are recent. I don't know what to do or how to go about this, but she's not budging on her denial. But again, I know my wife's body. Update. It's obvious she won't admit anything. I can't afford a lawyer or a PI. My guy tells me it's her. I mean, what's more likely? Someone found someone that looked just like her and had that woman perform sex acts, or it's pictures of her. She keeps saying not the only person with this, or I'm not the only person with that, but I know the little details of her body. I'm a broken man. I know I haven't been the best husband, but I love her. This is my second marriage, and I thought I finally found a place. I have no place to go, and I was stupid to think anyone would actually want to be with me anyway. My 28M girlfriend 26F is having a mental breakdown because her friend is getting married. My girlfriend 26F and I 28M have been together for over a year. I have a 4-year-old daughter from a previous girlfriend. Girlfriend and daughter get along very well. Girlfriend just quit her job and moved in with me full time. Everything is going great. Until her best friend announced she just bought a house, is getting married, and now is pregnant as well. They started dating about 1 month before us. My girlfriend lost it. She has been crying for literally 24 hours, non-stop. Picking fights with me. Just generally acting psycho and having panic attack after panic attack. I planned on marrying her when I finish college and get a good career so I can afford a beautiful ring and proper wedding. But her throwing a tantrum like this makes me have second thoughts about marrying her at all. We cannot afford a second child right now. Any advice on how to make things go back to normal? Leader, girlfriend is putting me through the ringer because her best friend is pregnant and engaged. Update, to clarify some things. My girlfriend pays for groceries, toys, diapers, and whatever else she can manage to pitch in on. She wants a job. I told her it would be better for her to go to school rather than waste time at some crummy fast food job. I don't want rent from her. I don't need it. She helps enough with driving my daughter and cleaning up after her. It honestly makes it work, since I have more time to earn money. She is currently enrolled in classes. They start next month. I've started college this year, and am focused on finishing as fast as I can. I've spoken to her about why she's so jealous of her friend. It seems she feels overwhelmed being a mother figure to my daughter, with no silver lining of a child of our own anytime in the near future. Now that her best friend is having a baby, she has no child-free person to turn to for a kid-free break. I can see how that would stress her out. This friend has kind of been her escape when she needs to decompress around another adult. She's incredibly happy for her friend. I don't think she's trying to outdo her or anything. She's not materialistic at all. She is very sentimental, though. We share the house, work, and childcare equally. I do my best to help her if I see she's stressing out. Yesterday, I sat her down and showed her the ring I had picked out for her, adamant that she doesn't want the ring. It would cost me 3 mortgage payments, which I can't afford until I finish school and get a good job. She doesn't want to wait for my idea of a perfect wedding. I guess I have been a little dense and only considering the proposal I always dreamed about. She's been an amazing girlfriend and parent. Maybe I have some things I need to reevaluate. I didn't consider that. Maybe her pressure is much greater than mine. I wanted to take my time and have my second kid the right way. But she's right. The timeline I have set up for us means she will have her first around mine 30 seconds, while she's surrounded by children.